Why rivers swallow but oceans return. The science behind Kerala's washed-ashore cargo. Kerala's tranquil shoreline is facing an escalating environmental threat after the Liberian-flagged cargo vessel MSC Elsa 3 sank in the Arabian Sea off the state's coast on Sunday, May 25. The sea, restless with post-monsoon energy, is now steadily casting remnants of the ship onto Kerala's beaches, raising public alarm and triggering urgent responses from the authorities. The sudden appearance of massive cargo containers along the shoreline has triggered an intriguing question: why does the ocean, vast and deep, often surrender its debris to the land, while rivers seem to swallow their contents without a trace? The answer lies in a complex interaction of physics, buoyancy, and oceanography. Nan, whether an object floats or sinks in the ocean depends on its density relative to seawater. Because salt water is denser than fresh water, due to dissolved salts and minerals, objects that might sink in a river can float more easily in the sea. Items like wooden planks, plastic bottles, and even empty metal containers, if not completely waterlogged, remain buoyant. Containers from cargo ships, especially if sealed or partially filled with air, often float and eventually drift to shore. Nan, waves, generated by surface winds, are one of the most powerful mechanisms for pushing floating debris ashore. As waves travel toward land, they rise and break due to decreasing sea depth, driving objects inland. Similarly, ocean currents, some driven by large-scale wind patterns and others by temperature and salinity differences, can transport debris thousands of kilometers before beaching it along coastlines. Nan, the gravitational pull of the moon and sun causes tides that shift enormous volumes of seawater toward and away from land. During high tide, floating objects are carried closer to the shore. During low tide, many of them are left behind on beaches, unable to return to deeper waters. Nan, wind itself is a significant force in the movement of floating debris. On the western coast, especially during the southwest monsoon, strong onshore winds routinely blow toward the land. These winds, coupled with surface currents, act as conveyor belts delivering flotsam, including shipwreck cargo, onto the beaches. Nan, while the sea does return many of the things it claims, particularly buoyant materials like plastics or sealed containers, heavier items, like fully loaded metal crates or machinery, are more likely to sink and remain on the ocean floor. However, even submerged objects can be stirred by undersea turbulence or strong currents and ultimately rise and drift to the coast over time. The phenomenon is not unique to Kerala. Across the world, ocean currents gather floating debris into massive gyres. The most infamous of these is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a floating graveyard of plastic waste trapped in the North Pacific Ocean by circulating currents. Back in Kerala, the arrival of these containers is just the beginning. The containers, some possibly carrying hazardous materials, have become symbols of a brewing marine crisis. If the oil stored aboard MSC Elsa 3 begins to leak in significant quantities, the resulting spill could smother coral reefs, poison fish, and destroy the fragile coastal wetlands. Environmental experts are calling for immediate containment measures and surveillance to assess and mitigate the damage. Swipe left for next video. The Kerala government issued a public advisory on Monday, urging residents and beachgoers to maintain a minimum distance of 200 meters from any drifting containers. The warning is not without merit. According to the Indian Coast Guard, the sunken cargo ship had 640 containers on board, including 13 carrying toxic substances and 12 loaded with highly flammable chemicals such as calcium carbide. Moreover, the vessel held 84.44 metric tons of diesel and 367.1 metric tons of furnace oil, fuels now at risk of spilling into the sea and devastating the marine ecosystem. With monsoon winds and tidal forces gaining strength, the floating cargo and oil slicks are being pushed steadily toward Kerala's shores. Latest blogs.